Talladega for the XMS Ricmotech Cup Series. Going to be here in the massive 2.6 mile oval. We're going to see intensity. We're going to see slicing and dicing. We're going to see intense maneuvers being pulled off, and I'm looking forward to this. I'm Jordan Brockel, joined in the booth by Jonathan Leach himself. How you doing, Jonathan?
Jordan, I'm doing pretty good. Ready for a late evening race here at Talladega for the XMS Cup Series, guys. Looks like we've got a pretty solid field, showing 16 drivers for the race. I expect this race to go by extremely quickly until about 10 to go. And at that point, I think chaos is going to break loose, and we'll go from there. But it's about the time to talk about the race info. Take it away.
Yeah, so we're looking around 81 degrees here in Alabama today. 108 degree track temp, which is not as important as, say, your Richmonds and your short tracks and your miles and such. It's you don't really worry about sliding through corners and everything like that. So we've got a little bit of a wind. So I'll see these guys get a good push down the front straightaway or back straightaway, depending on which way that wind is going. And I'm looking forward to these guys, really mixing and matching. The Xfinity Series last night saw a lot of clean racing just up until the last moment. Even trying to push each other about 4 wide. So it's certainly going to be a fun one. And, rolling off first today is going to be Scott Ramler, followed by Ryan Fry, Joshua Badal, and Jonathan Cogswell starting in row 2. Daniel Krim, Douglas Carlson, 5th and 6th, Brandon Stower and Joe Hutchings in 7th and 8th, Dalton Fredericks, Taylor Bertram, Michael Thwaites, and Gary Wells in 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th.
13th,
Wyatt
Franklin. Oh, I wanted to take it from you, man. You tapered off on me. I'm doing it. Wyatt Franklin, Caleb Lamb, 13th and 14th. Marco Evans and Jacob Brower, that'll be rounding out your field. I'm showing Logan Kogar, but I believe he's going to be race control for the day. These guys are down the back stretch right now, of course, with the Ramler Fry front row. And, I think we're going to single file out pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday they kind of stayed 2x2 fairly long, but, these cars are very aero dependent and very unstable, in my opinion, when it comes to these plate tracks. So getting down to that bottom line, kind of getting in line and just kind of trying not to put yourself in positions that are going to leave you kind of in a precarious predicament is going to be key. And trying to just set yourself up for good pit stops down the way, and just kind of finding yourself in that position that you think you can win from.
Well, really, for this kind of races, we're getting ready to go green. As we are green now, it's almost positioning with a little bit of luck and kind of just see how it happens for you. They got to come way down the front stretch here, so there's still plenty of time to talk before Ramler and Fry are on the throttle. You see I'm throttled up now. Race fans, here we are at Talladega. We're going racing 95 laps, a lot of miles here for the XMS Cup Series.
Yeah, you're going to see that Ryan Fry is going to get a little bit of a push by Jonathan Cogswell there to clear himself down to first. I thought he would have maybe dove down and taken that front spot on that inside line. It's usually the preferred area, but he might be thinking, Jonathan Cogswell helped me out there. I might take him with me. As you see, they kind of do file down when it looks like Douglas Carlson squeezes himself in there.
And, I wasn't expecting the second line to run for this long, but at the same time, if you're not doing something interesting, this is a long race, and it's going to get kind of boring. I mean, it's almost 250 miles, somewhere around 230 miles, I believe, give or take a little bit. 95 times 2.5, whatever the math checks out to be right there. 100, 2.5, that's 250. So 5 times 2.5. Yeah, okay. 128, 228 or so.
Somewhere around that, yeah. My math is not as not as great, but I trust you on that one.
Try doing a math problem on an interview, and then get back to me.
Look, math was my strong suit, and it still wasn't that strong of a suit.
I was off by 10. 237.50. It's actually longer than that because it's 2.65 miles.
Yeah, but yeah, that
250,
point, I mean,
251.75. We got 200 and we'll call it 246 miles left to go. Jonathan Cogswell's pushing Ryan Fry, and I don't understand, but we're 3 wide down the front stretch. Right here, I've seen the Wyatt Franklin machines in that group of cars, as well as Dalton Fredericks, and I think that's Jacob Bauer on the top in the 12.
Yeah, that three car's definitely looking. That 3 car's definitely looking for some redemption last night. You know, he was pushing somebody right up on their rear bumper and seemed to have overheated and expired his engine rather early in the race. And you know, he's probably looking for a little bit of redemption, get himself back up into the front, maybe pull off a win here. You know, he did win a plate race or 2 this year. So I mean, he's definitely looking for a good night tonight to kind of redeem himself. But you know, we're going to have to see, you know, a lot of these guys really have to work and maneuver their cars to keep that air to that nose, because once you expire that engine, you're done. And you don't want to expire it in the middle of the pack, because then, you know, you're going to collect 5, 6, 7 cars with you as well.
You know, it doesn't happen very often, at least not in the Next Gen series, but I certainly remember early on in iRacing with the Gen 6 car, these plate tracks, you had to be careful. You would very quickly, running in the pack 3-4 laps right on a bumper, you know, overheat the engine, and it might just go kaboom and ruin your day. I might have been victim to that once, but I certainly know other drivers who have fallen victim. You just don't notice the numbers turn red on the dashboard, and then as you see that, you don't know it, and if you don't see it, because of everything else going on around you can see right here and onboard Caleb Lamb, those white numbers, we can't get a close-up shot here, unfortunately. Some would turn red for the temperature on the machine. And if you don't notice that, and it's plausible that you may not notice it based on, you know, everything going on around you, it can certainly cause some trouble.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're looking out your windshield, you're looking in your mirror, you're looking ahead of you if you're, you know, in mid-pack or back beyond. You know, you're looking at 100 million different things, and to try to put your eyes on those gauges as well is going to be tough. And you know, I remember back when I first started running in iRacing, you know, we used to set up setups where, you know, we could run a certain amount of tape if we were to get a green-white checkered, that we could push, you know, 1.5 to 2 laps tucked up and really just put it just to near blow up, that we would blow up crossing the finish line. And you know, these cars don't allow it, you know, as easy of a setup. You know, they're a little bit more finicky, and they're a little bit more of a realistic feel to my opinions, you know, where they kind of go when they feel they need to.
On somebody, speaking of not going, is that 76 Marco Evans. You know, he's lost the draft. He's 3.5 seconds back and counting quickly. And Jacob Bauer off the racing surface. So there must have been something that we missed. It shows that he entered pit lane. Let's keep an eye on. He just exits the racing surface, goes down pit lane.
It looks like he's flying down pit lane too.
Yeah, he is out. Something outside of the race must have occurred that has caused him to exit the race in a hurry. Single file now, except for a single machine. That yellow number 1, is that what I'm seeing? 81. 81, Joe Hutchings hanging out of the second lane, going backwards, but, you know, honestly, it's not worth... It's worth testing out to see how the car drives by itself around the pack. Are you going to drop like a rock? Obviously. And or not. I do still believe at tracks like Talladega and tracks like Daytona, if you get right on the left or the right side of the car next to you, that car's draft also goes around yours. And if you're right next to that line, you tend to be able to hang with them. But it's a lot of close quarters racing, especially when you're going through the corners at 190 miles per hour. Some drivers don't really appreciate you being right on their door. But if you're battling for the lead, If you stay right on that leader's right side, you can pretty much stay with them until you get help from behind again.
Yeah, and we saw last night in the Xfinity series, we saw guys able to kind of hang just on, maybe a car or two off of where they got out of line by side drafting. I mean, we saw people kind of do that and kind of basically just hang out there and beg for somebody to come out there with them. And it worked at, on several occasions where somebody, got enticed to jump up to that high side and go with them and, push them to the front.
All right, so now we're just about 10 laps in, and we're single file, and this is what we expected. It's going to be sort of like this for a long portion of the race. There's not going to be too much going on. So Jordan, what would be best way we can do this here is incrementally go through some of the notes for the season. I don't expect these guys, if any, to potentially mess anything up. I think we're going to see the green flag pit stops here in about 15 to 18 laps, and that might get kind of interesting. But till then, I think these guys are just going to run single file.
Yeah, and they're all going to sit here. They're going to run single file. They're going to run, figure out how quickly their car closes up. You see some of these guys kind of getting a little bit of a gap to the car in front of them and seeing how quickly their car pulls up to the car in front of them, how that run feels. You got to stack the notebook with everything that you can think of for every situation that can happen, and at a place like Talladega or Daytona or, these plate tracks, there's a number of different things that can happen all at once. So you have to have every bit of notes that you possibly can have to just have almost like a game plan, like an NFL coach or a hockey coach or something, where you just have that whole game plan and you see, X, Y, Z happens. So you go to this play and you run that play.
You're not wrong on that, but so it's worth, let's go to the top three here. Gary Wells, Wyatt Franklin, Caleb Lamb, all up 11 spots. These guys decided they wanted to run up front the whole time. Scott Randless falling back to 8th. Joe Hutching back to 6th. A couple other guys have gone backwards. But I mean, on this racing surface, with this number of cars in this league, I feel like you really want to be up front. And Gary Wells and Wyatt Franklin and Caleb Lamb are showing that. Turn our attention back here to Marco Evans. Last time we talked to him, talked about him, he was 3.5 seconds back. That gap is now nearly 11 seconds to Joe Hutchings, which is the last car on that line. He's going to really need some help here, or at some point it's going to be another 20, 30 laps, but with the pit stops and the laps, he's going to find himself going a lap down if nobody botches the pitch stops coming in and he can't pick up the draft.
Yeah, I mean, best case scenario for him is that, he runs this thing out. We saw some guys kind of split this stage. We're going to have a stage caution around lap 30. So his best bet is to run this thing out and try to just be the only guy a lap down. I know Hutchings is also out of the draft at the pack. So as long as they don't catch Hutchings, he should be all right to, just get that lucky dog, get his service still, and run off as Joe Hutchings comes down pit road now as I say that.
Yeah, I find this to be kind of weird without anybody else around him. Marco Evans, I feel like I thought it looked like he got slow, but that just tells you how massive the track is. So Hutchings down pit road all by himself, lap 13. Doesn't really make sense to me. Take a look at the NASCAR Shop Fanatics experience. A little free marketing for those guys. And also don't forget about Extreme Scoring, which is a sponsor here for the XMS Ricmotech series. And Hutchings on pit road for 8 seconds just for fuel. Getting back up to throttle now. And here comes the rest of the field. They're going to put him a lap down rather easily. And
yeah,
if Hutchings could maybe catch this draft, I don't think it's going to happen. That would certainly be beneficial.
Yeah, that's where I was just about to go to, is I don't know if he got out, in time to maybe tail on to, tag along on to the end of this field. It's kind of looking a lot better now than it was at first. He's just going to have to hope that he can really, stick with it. But it seems like he's doing all right for himself there, kind of getting in between everybody and basically just forcing himself into that line.
Yeah, you know, that really couldn't have worked out any better for him. He did get up to speed, caught the draft. It's a little wider than I expected. Then he is up to 180 by halfway through the pack. And, you know, here he is hanging on to that. Marco Evans just slowly dropping more and more time. Can't even see the leaders anymore. And I tell you what's the worst feeling on Talladega is looking at this. On car right here, all by yourself. This is as boring and frustrating as it gets at this racetrack. You're going to hold the other line the whole time, try to make the best lap time as you can, all while hearing your spotter and crew chief telling you every lap, that's 2 seconds. That's 2 seconds. That's 2 seconds again. And there's just nothing you can do. You got to hope that whatever caused you to be back here, something occurs again to move you to the front. And I want to apologize if he had a particular paint to be loaded. We are running the XMS software, and it just appears like Marco Evans, his paint scheme, if there is one, did not load like the rest of the field. So that being said, Hutchings came down pit road. I don't expect one car to force everybody else, but you said they split the stage. So do you think they're going to be coming down sooner rather than later?
I think we might see a couple. I don't think we'll see a like we did last night where, you know, we had a roughly around 30, 31 cars last night. So we had a pretty split field. So these guys might just end up running this thing out to the full distance and really just trying to stretch it and worry about service at that stage caution.
Now, do you think they can stretch it all the way to the stage? That's my next question. Marco Evans down pit road.
Now, I know that last night, you know, we had some guys come down early, and then we had a lot of, you know, the rest of that field wait until the stage caution to come down. So I'm not 100%, but I would almost bet that they could make it to this end of this stage. If not, I think we would have already seen some of these guys come down. But I also know that, you know, with this being the last race before the playoffs, some of these guys are really going to be wanting to fight for these playoff points and maybe get themselves in a better position.
Which that leads me back to Marco Evans here. Thinking about this, Hutchings is going to be in the free pass position, but if everybody else stretches it, and even if they don't, Evans can be put in a wave around situation. But he pitted now, which means, you know, he might have to pit and get fuel anyway. So for Marco Evans, he might be trapped a lap down at the end of the next stage, which is a really unfortunate place to be here at Talladega, and because it's very hard at this track without a lot of cautions to get your lap back. And if any series is going to go caution free and not even have a caution at the end of the race, which is typical of Talladega, it's these guys.
Yeah, I mean, once you're on no man's land, it's really hard to get off of it. Even once you have those little bit of breaks and cautions, you know, you're still kind of on no man's land with being, you know, off lap and everything like that. You know, no one's going to want to work with you because you are off lap, and, you know, you're not really going to benefit them for tagging along. And it kind of leaves you almost out to dry.
All right, so we're coming down the backstretch now. Hutchings staying up on the high side again. Single file, a little bit of movement back here with these guys around Daniel Krim running 9th at 47. GT Concepts Chevrolet. Him and Scott Rambler, not Rambler, excuse me, the 81 of Hutchings. Those two guys have been kind of popping in and out of line a little bit. I guess they're just kind of seeing if anybody will go with them just because here. And, you know, and maybe it's worth seeing what you can do with 2 or 3 cars, kind of playing that cat and mouse game right now early, because if it doesn't work out, there might be time to recover if you happen to drop a bunch of spots. But this is something that, back in my racing days, that I would try a lot. I would try and see if I get 2 or 3 guys to go with me and see how much ground I can make up and how long that it takes to do so. But you got to be cognizant of the fact that when it's seen in the race and you decide it's time to go, everybody else might have decided that it's time to go. So you kind of want to be first. But if you're too early, you kind of show your hand and you put yourself in position to be wrecked.
Yeah, and that's and we
here
see a
comes the
bunch
field.
of guys dive off now. Just about the entire field here diving off. Got to get down. Oh, looks like the 95 maybe got loose. Ooh.
Everything looks okay right now.
Oh man, going from that upper 190 mile an hour down to pace speed, it's not going to be a simple thing to do. As the 87 slides through his box.
It slides way through his box. It seems really tame. That's going to hurt him bad. Michael Thwaite's in. Taylor Bertram in. Bertram's off. Gary Wells off. Others off. Franklin getting tires. So a couple guys getting tires. 1, 2, 1, 4. This is going to split these guys up quite a bit for the rest of the stage. They might stay close enough together. So they might all be spread out just close enough, which doesn't make sense to say, but just close enough that they can catch the draft for everybody and get back in line.
Yeah, and like you said, just close enough. I know it
Except
doesn't
for
sound
Wyatt
right, but
Franklin.
yeah, he was I believe the lone guy to take tires, so that really set him back, and he's going to have an uphill battle here if he wants to be able to stay on a lead lap, in my opinion, here as well.
And Caleb Lamb right here doesn't stay with that group, but he's going to pick up the draft with these guys right here in front of him. He spent 20 seconds in his pit box. I'm not sure if he had just a touch of damage that he was trying to work on, but 20 seconds in the box is a really odd number, considered without something else going on. So curious to see. I wonder what that is. Here comes Vidal all by his lonesome.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's not the first time we've seen that tonight. We saw Marco Evans doing it. We saw Joe Hutchings do it. And now Joshua Vidal doing it. I wonder if maybe he called it out and hoped that the rest of those guys would come down with him.
Well, I mean, there's only 3 more guys to pit: Krim, Cogswell, and Fredericks. And honestly, I sort of feel like their bed is kind of made because they're giving up time right now, slightly to that larger group. And as they keep giving up time, they're slower because they're a group of 4. That's a group of say 9. The longer you wait to go, the closer they catch you. And then when they do catch you, they're going to be the ones with the head of steam coming as a full group. And likely they're going to get around these 4 guys that are trying to get organized off pit road. And to make matters worse, if one of them messes up and now you've got a 3-car pack, you're really, or gaggle, they'll say, you're really going to start losing some time. As looks like they're trying to take a little bit of the draft right there on the car in front of them.
Yeah, it looks like Hutchings, he's at the tail end of the lead lap here. Wow! I did not expect Wyatt Franklin to throw that thing in there. I would almost hope that they had that worked out and wanted to work with him, because that would have been scary as the leader.
Yeah, that must have been planned. It just seemed like it happened too easily, but that's pretty intense right there.
Yeah, and I mean, it's almost, back to the whole pit stops and everything, it's a little flip-flopped from what I, expected. Daniel Krim, Jonathan Cogswell, and Dalton Fredericks, they are way good as far as points. They're sitting about 60 or so points from the cut line for the playoffs. So, I would have expected, some of these guys to just go ahead and hit and, get what they needed to get. And some of those other guys, that are right there at the cut line, like your Gary Wells, Brandon Stower, those guys to stay, in this running. Wyatt Franklin as well. He's at 272. The cutoff right now is David Snook, who is not here tonight, at 280. So spots definitely up for grabs. We're missing David Snook, Alex Relling. So those are 2 big spots. Alex Relling only good to the go for about 20 or so points. So you would have almost thought that some of these guys would have stayed out to grab as many stage points as they possibly could and make it to where if they do have a problem and finish, say, 10th or 11th in this race, that's not a great finish with how many cars are here. But, that still gives them good amounts of points with having those stage points.
Right. And changing the subject a little bit here, if these guys can make it, these three that haven't pitted, why did everybody else pit? And I don't know the answer to that. Somebody please enlighten me. If everybody can make it to the stage, why did everybody choose to pit instead?
And I feel like it has to do with something with maybe getting, keeping track position. You come down, you hope that, the other guys do stay out so that you can cycle back to the leader. Yeah, you'll have less fuel load. You'll hope to catch a caution so that everybody has to pit, at the same time. And, you still get to stay up front. But, with everybody else pitting, I mean, I think these top three of Cogswell, Fredericks, and Krim just, they saw that everybody's probably going to still pit here at that stage break. So I'm with you as well. I'm not really sure I understand it, but I've seen crazier work out.
I mean, I guess, you don't have to put as much fuel in it at the pit stop. I just find it hard to believe that, 12 of our field thought that way. Now, let me go pit now to put less fuel in it at the stage break when you could have kept all your track position, made a move here kind of at the end of it, and then, just leave it up to how much of a gap you can close. There's some wiggling going on right here. How much of a gap you can close on pit road, how much you're willing to speed without getting caught, and whether or not you take 2, 4, or no tires. To me, I just sort of feel like some of these guys that are a lap down didn't need to put themselves in a position to be a lap down if you can make it to the end. And I mean, they got 5 miles to go, and I don't expect Cogswell, Fredericks, or Krim, unless they absolutely have to come down pit road with a lap and a half before the end of the stage. So just a head scratcher moment right here for why you pitted or split this stage up. But maybe it'll all become more clear as the race goes on. As we're single file into turn 3, nice Sunoco logo right there, and plenty of American flags as we round 3 and 4, which is the length of Bristol, something like that. And now into the front stretch, which is going to be like the length of Richmond. Just such a massive racetrack. It just really is a large track. I mean, we're doing 190 miles an hour around this racing surface. It's taken 49-second lap times to get around the track. And so it's worth noting that Talladega, everybody is running 49 5s and 6s. There's really nobody running any times much significantly
I don't
faster
mean to
than
cut you off
that.
here, but I feel like maybe Cogswell might be out. Yeah, Cogswell is out.
Now that is unfortunate. I think he's going to make it around right here. Fredericks is out. Krim is out. All three are out.
And we are coming to the stage here. I mean, the caution is out right now, but these guys haven't even made it back to...
Krim is not going to make it. Cogswell is probably going to make it. Fredericks.
He's not coming down pit road.
Ooh. I don't know what the rule is here about pushing. Are they going to allow somebody to push Fredericks? Cogswell makes it. He's like, I'm going to take the penalty, get fuel. It's just an end of the line.
Or does Fredericks, have enough that he can coast around, maybe? I don't know. This is interesting. Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Krim, he's not going to make it. 42 miles an hour.
Yeah, and see, when you're at a speed like that, you better hope you can get in your box perfect, because if not, then you have to tow anyway, so you just lost everything.
Yeah, can you imagine towing in your box?
Yeah. Look, I'm not the best guy at pit stops, so I can tell you I've done it. I know from experience.
34, 32, 31. He's going to make it. Wow. Look at that. He made it.
And that's just insane. I was certain that these guys were going to make it. Fredericks, I mean, he seems to have it. So, I mean,
Yeah, but it seems like he was way slow. And timing and scoring is not showing him right. I don't believe. I don't think he's actually the leader right here. Now here comes the rest of the field down pit road. I was wondering if it was how close it could possibly be because Krim and Fredericks, uh, those guys and Wyatt, I believe, not Wyatt. I'm losing my train of thought already. Who it was? That's a shame on me. But those three guys, they were the leaders. There was no way they were saving fuel.
yeah, no, not at all. And that's going to be something that we're going to have to, pay attention to. Like, you saw
And Cogswell is who it was.
all three of those guys, run out or just about run out. So, we're seeing that just short about 30 laps is going to be the around the cutoff for fuel.
Yeah, so we'll get back here about third lap 35. You can make 30 to 65. You can make it to the end. Or if you go to 62, you can make it to the end, I guess. But, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But we're on lap 32 and 95 for the XMS series. We're going to step away. Want to thank the league sponsors. I'm Jonathan Leach. Joining me is Jordan Brockville, and we'll be right back.
Ricmotech, high-performance sim racing equipment. Whether you're just looking to have fun, train for race day, or become a serious esports competitor, Ricmotech has you covered. Hundreds of name brand parts. Support from experts that love sim racing. Trusted by the pros. There's only one place to go, Ricmotech.com. Ricmotech, high-performance sim racing equipment. There's only one place to go, Ricmotech.com.
The search is over. The most comprehensive oval scoring solution is here. Featuring oval playoffs, adjust drivers per round, custom number of rounds, custom playoff points, provisionals, optional win and you're in, custom playoff displays, rookie championships, optional minimum participation, and load those results in seconds. Visit extremescoring.info today.
All right, back after the stage break. Jonathan Cogswell, Dalton Fredericks are somehow still leading the race after running out of fuel. I guess that's perhaps for crossing the line ahead of the field. But we're back to racing on lap 35 of 95 here at Talladega, and we've determined the fuel run is about 30 laps. Side by side for a minute. Don't expect that to last for very long.
Yeah, no, and I'm seeing our scoring is still showing Cogswell as the leader, but he's at the tail end of this field.
Yeah, that's a really strange situation right here. Perhaps after a lap, it's going to cycle through. But regardless, Fredericks is up front, and he is being shown as the leader. I'll try to refresh our overlay here, but it might solve itself once we cycle through one more time for the live timing and the timing marks here. Across the start finish line. And it's just broke. We'll give it a second right here.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if somehow Cogswell ended up basically a lap ahead of these guys. You know, being at the tail end of the field, it was showing his gap was over a minute to these guys. So
I think he might have possibly been given an accidental wave.
That's what I'm wondering, possibly, or some confusion with how iRacing they all were running out and the caution came out, and I wonder if it just kind of confused. Oh, I wonder if he's got a penalty, like passing under yellow.
Well, the field's coming
there he
around.
goes. So he
36
plummets down the
40 seconds, still not coming out. 42, 43, 44 seconds. This isn't any regular penalty I've ever seen. He's been on pit road now 50
No, not at all.
seconds. Rest of the field trucking down the backstretch. Cogswell still on pit road. 60 seconds, 1 minute.
Not sure what that's all about, but that's definitely going to be a heartbreaker for him. He was running a good race there, and in that top three, and now finds himself he's going to be laps down now.
Yeah, the field going around Cogswell right there. That's going to put him, I believe, 1 lap down, but now he's going to be scored in 15th, only ahead of Brower, and who left the race earlier abruptly. Marco Evans is the first car 1 lap down. Now it's Hutchings, who's in 9th after pitting early, did manage to get his lap back, being the free pass car. That number 81 something farm machine is looking to be in pretty good shape here, as he's got the 76 that is Marco Evans to his outside, and the 87 of Gary Wells just behind him.
Yeah, and now I'm seeing that Jonathan Cogswell is back on the track. I'd like to see, maybe reach out. I'll see if Race Control has an answer for us there.
Yeah, a
But
minute
definitely
and 31
interesting.
seconds in this box. Could it have been a minute and 30-second penalty? I don't know any like that in the iRacing in the service. However, we would have to go and double check and take a look at the rule book for the XMS Cup Series. And it's a very extensive rule book. Back in my days, they're very strict about pitting in, how many pit boxes you can go through and how many you can't go through. There are very specific rules that must be followed for this series, and they enforce it, and they enforce it well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's stall penalties. There's exiting your stall penalties. There's obviously our pit road speeding, the pit road behavior for these guys. Staying to the right side of pit road until you're about 6 or so stalls away from the box. So I mean, they're very extensive and very, in my opinion, realistic with their rulings here.
I certainly remember one time I was running a race. I was running a good race, and I just clipped, I think it was a 7th pit stall. You can get 3 before, 3 after, and I think I just clipped one, and they got me. race over. And I'm like, man, darn. And it was just so frustrating. But, you know, penalties are penalties. And, wow, look at this mess right here. That got kind of hairy. Whoa, there's trouble. Did they hang on to it? There he is running.
I don't know, it looks like Marco Evans down on the...
Not Marco Evans. Scott Ramler.
Yeah.
Try to go back and see what sort of happened here. Scott Ramler. Oh, a little stack. Oh, that's a huge hit. Oh, man. That right front is going to be messed up after that impact for sure. He very well might come down pit road this time. I don't think he's going to be able to nurse this around the track. Maybe he can, but he is significantly slower than the rest of the field.
Yeah, and I'm almost wondering if with how he impacted that wall, you know, right end, or wow, right fender in first, you know, maybe even grabbing some engine damage on that thing as well, and you know, hitting the right rear, you know, possible toe link, you know, throwing that out of whack. You know, there's a lot that could be going on with that car right now.
Yeah, unfortunate for the Makoni setup shop driver, Scott Ramler. One of 3 Toyotas in the race. Obviously, he's the lower running Toyota. Into his pit box. Right side comes up. Tires. Left side up. More tires. And I wonder how long he's going to sit on pit road. I guess you can give up about a lap here. There's the lap. Don't want to give up any more than one. So perhaps he's going to go about another 20 seconds here, get back on track, and then just kind of hope for the best. Maybe he'll get a caution to get some more damage repaired.
I mean, that's his best case scenario there.
Yeah, I can't think of a better option to do as the field's coming back around. You go 2 laps down at Talladega, that's your race. In most cases.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be begging for several cautions and having to take wave arounds and hope that you're the last guy on the lead lap. And with being multiple laps down, it's going to be near impossible to be that guy, you know, last or first on the first lap down.
Gary Wells leads the field, passing Scott Ramler into the start-finish line. That was lap 42 of 95 as we're approaching, well, as we really are at the halfway point, just about. Got about 2 or 3 more laps. We'll be at halfway. Curious to see if somebody going to save fuel and stretch to the end, because now we know we can get to the last lap. One of these guys further in the pack here is certainly going to maybe stretch it or try it. And, you know, I guess I could say why no one else tried it, Jordan. I assume they didn't think they would be able to make it. Now it's been demonstrated that you can make it if you save a little bit of fuel. So running up front obviously did not work. Running in the middle of the pack, you're not even full throttle down the racing surface. You could absolutely save, you know, maybe a lap or 2 across the run, which you can use later. And the guys that we saw earlier, Gary Wells, Cogswell, and I believe it was Daniel Krim, they were up front. They were not saving any fuel, and they got all the way to the last lap.
Yeah, not even in the slightest saving anything. And, you know, I wish I could go back and think of who was in the front there, because I was under the impression in my head that Dalton Fredericks was leading that, and somehow...
Oh, I'm sorry. It was Dalton Fredericks, not Daniel Krim. Thank you.
It was Krim, Fredericks, and Cogswell.
Oh, then I was right, and I just
you were right.
Second-guessed myself.
You were perfect, dead on.
Of course.
But, you know, if I remember correctly, you know, things do, even though this is a massive track, you know, things do go quickly here. You know, I could have sworn Fredericks was leading that pack, but seemed to be the guy that had the most amount of fuel there at the end of that run.
All right. Yeah. Well, just curious to see, you know, if you get to lap, what was it? They restarted 35. Let's assume they burned a little bit under yellow. Probably can get to 64. 64, I would say it's a safe run. any further than that, you're really kind of pushing it, and we'll just kind of see and go from there.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
and I mean, doing the little bit of mental math, 64 wouldn't necessarily get you to the end either, because 30 laps was a stretch for these guys. So 64.
Right, a little bit of
would
bumping
be-
happening right there. That's a little antsy. Let's, gosh, who are those drivers back there? Are having a tough time focusing on them with the few cars that are a lap down. I think it's the 83 was a part of that. Yeah, the 76 and the 83, Brandon Stower, we haven't called his name yet in this one. They're a little bit of touching back and forth there, which got a little hairy. Very well could have been a caution that, Evans is looking for. And honestly, Cogswell's only 2 laps down. I mean, if he gets a couple, he might luck his way back into this one.
Yeah, and I'm really looking for that 83 of Stower as well to really start pushing the envelope here. I mean, as he sits, minus stage points, he's sitting 5 out of the of the top 12 for the playoffs. So he's going to be looking to have a good top finish and try to jump a couple of these guys to get himself into the playoffs. So I think he's going to be one of the guys to watch. And even Wyatt Franklin, he's only 8 points off. So those two are based off of what I'm reading really quick here. Those two are going to be the guys that are closest that are out right now. So Gary Wells is only 4 points to the good. So he's currently leading as of right now. So he's sitting in a good spot. Thwaites, he's about 15 or so without stage points to the good. So some of these guys a little bit more, better off than others. But we're gonna. I think we're only gonna ramp up here in the next 20 or 30 laps or so.
All right, so we got 2 separate groups here. We got Group 1, 1st through 8. It's led by Gary Wells and the caboose is Stower. The second group, led by Wyatt Franklin, tailed by Ryan Fry, is a 4-car group. I'm not really sure how they got separated, other than perhaps, with the Scott Ramler incident. Scott Ramler is no longer here on the racing surface. But these guys are about 5.25 seconds back and slowly losing time. And I don't think they're going to be able to catch the guys in front of them without getting significantly more coordinated. And they're really not doing a bad job here, but it's going to require them to get even closer. And you don't want to see, Ryan Fry, that 32, doing that right there, getting kind of way out of whack. Something happened that got him super loose or something strange there. He's going to have to get right up on the bumper of Daniel Krim. Krim is going to have to follow Joshua Vidal the whole way, and Vidal is going to have to follow Wyatt Franklin. It's almost worth, if you're in the situation, all right, guys, going into the corner, I'm going to turn down and hug the yellow line. I'm going to stay on that white line. Just kind of tell everybody in front of you so they know what to expect, because what happens is when you're following the guy on board with Daniel Krim, you start trying to chase the guy's movements in front of yours, and you're always going to be a little bit off. And then the guy behind you is going to try to chase your movements, and you're always going to be a little bit off, and it kind of creates the snake effect that you see on IndyCar. However, in IndyCar, it happens so fast, it's not as damaging. But here, the car in front of you goes a little right. You go right, but that car's already correcting left. Now you're catching the turbulence off his car instead of staying within the weight. So it's worth mentioning that you've got to stay close together and try to anticipate each other's moves if these guys want to catch the cars in front of them. And believe it or not, the last couple moments, they made up a little bit of ground. I'm not sure where and how they made up the ground, but they just picked up about 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, and you almost have to kind of be in the mind of the guy in front of you, and he needs to be in the mind of the guy in front of him, and you got to really coordinate. Oh, is it? Ooh, that 26 got a little bit to the inside of Wyatt Franklin there. Could have been disastrous, but with what I've noticed with this next gen car is, the smaller the pack, the less intense, the accordion effect is. Once you're in those bigger packs, everybody gets a run at a different time, and they have to let off, and then you catch them quicker, and you have that kind of back and forth accordion, as to where when you have this smaller group, you don't have that massive effect as much. So as long as you can stay hooked up and in line and nose to tail, not really have anything breaking yourselves up, you're gonna carry a lot more speed, and I mean, you have to be a lot more on point and perfect with it, but it's definitely a way to gain a lot more speed if you can stay in line and not really have to worry about that whole accordion effect.
And and it's almost sort of going to be tragic, if this front eight lets this smaller group catch them, and they were doing a pretty good job being organized, but now you got about a car length or car and a half in between everybody in the front group, as well as a couple moments ago, one of the drivers was, almost in a completely different lane, and so it's very possible, this bigger track that they might, or this bigger pack, created just enough of a pull, and somehow it expanded far enough back, and that second group was able to grab onto it and just barely catch Michael Thwaites, the wake from his machine, and it's slowly pulling this group together. I really didn't think they were going to catch him, Jordan, and I am surprised. And they're coming a little quicker, about a mile an hour a lap.
Yeah, and as long as they stay in that line, they're going to tag along onto that, and if they get enough of a speed and catch some of these guys in that, that where they have to, as that group kind of breaks up there in the front, spreading out, that's only going to help these guys as well. But they could have even possibly had a thing where they catch those guys in one of those accordion backoffs, where they just end up going to the outside, grabbing a side draft, and those 4 cars are faster than a pack.
Yeah, I mean, and drafting is so big at tracks like Talladega, the side draft too being included, and now everything is just a mess. And here comes that group of 4, and we're about to put the rest of the field back together. We haven't seen this, since the drop of the green flag, because Marco Evans was behind the field. Of course, we had a couple other drivers that have now expired. Scott Rambler, Jacob Brow, Cogswell is 2 laps down. He's in this group, however. And we're about to have the whole field back together. Gang's gonna be all back together, Jordan.
Yeah, and it's gonna be one of those where these guys are gonna catch them, and they have to make a decision. Do they think it's time to really kind of start moving and trying to get around these guys and put themselves in about the mid-pack, front of the pack area, or do you just tag along, stay seated, and see how it plays out?
Yeah, I think you just chill until 2 to 3 laps to go. I don't have a better way to say it. You just relax, go with the flow, don't do anything drastic, wait till the last lap, everybody wrecks in front of you, and you might win. Now, that's just sort of how it goes.
Yeah, and I mean, we've already seen it, once this season in the Xfinity Series, where the 2 leaders at Indianapolis, they got together, they moved aside, and Michael Thwaites, sitting in 3rd, comes flying through and ultimately wins that race there. So I mean, anything can happen. As they say in football terms, is any given Sunday. Same thing with NASCAR. Any given Sunday. For us, it's any given Wednesday, but anything can happen. It's so unpredictable, and you don't know until you don't know until you know.
For sure. No, and this week we're at Talladega, and next Wednesday, June 19th, we're going to be going to Worldwide Technology Raceway, or Gateway. It's going to have one stage and lap 40 So we're going to go from this almost cookie cutter but wild racing surface to a very technical surface over at Gateway St. Louis, which I think it's like a 1.25 mile, or maybe it's a 3/4 mile, sort of kind of like in Iowa. Then after that, these guys are going to, last Wednesday of June of 24, these guys are going to Road America. 4 miles, just over 4 mile long racing track. There's going to be a stage on lap 13, and that's all you're going to get. You're going to get that one caution if you mess it up the first 13 laps. You're going to get one shot. It's 38 lap race. That is such a short race as far as lap count, but that's going to be a long one, I believe. And going back to next week again, Gateway will be 140 laps. That's going to be technical. It's a tough racing surface. 2 very different corners. They don't really look it, but they definitely drive differently. It's not quite as drastic as Darlington, Jordan, but it's going to be a challenge for some of these drivers. And everybody's pitting again, except for a few.
And I'm almost wondering if that's too soon. I mean, we were talking about getting to 64, 65, 63, somewhere in that range. But these guys, I mean, maybe they see that, the trend of where they're going to have to make another stop. So they come down now, they get a good fuel load, and then they run that out to about lap 88, 89, somewhere in there, and maybe come down a little bit before those laps, like 85 or so, and get a splash. It's I don't know. It's gonna be close.
Well, they get 30 laps here. Oh yeah, I don't think so. 30 laps.
I mean,
We saw
30
those
laps
guys run out. I don't think you're saving 5 laps. I know you started talking right there, but saving 5 laps is going to be very difficult to do, and unless they're banking on a caution, which honestly isn't a bad choice, but why not stretch it? The top 4, I think or top 3 here, I think they've made their mind up. It is top 4. Michael Thwaites is just in front of the second group here. These guys, I think you need to go to 65, 66, and then come down pit road, because if you don't get a caution, all those guys have to pit. It's going to be these 4.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, because those guys came out of pit, you're at, it looks like we actually have these guys coming down now.
Yeah, so everybody's coming down pit
gonna be
road,
short,
locking up the brakes for Stower. Or no, Hutchings.
Everybody's going to be short. You're going to exit this backstretch. You're going to be about lap 60 and a half. It's going to put you at like 90-ish, 91 if you run that full fuel load.
I'd like to see a whole field run out of fuel. It would be utter chaos, and I bet iRacing would not know what to do with itself if an entire field ran out of fuel. That'd be a funny test.
I feel like what would happen is you would have all these guys tow, and they would be sitting there on pit road getting their fuel, and as soon as they come out, they're just running from the end of pit road to the finish line.
It'd be entertaining. I once hosted a fog race. Fog is at like 86%. And just sail off into the corner like, well, I can't see what I'm doing, and I can't see the car in front of me, but we're gonna see what happens. So I think it's really cool that you can make the relative humidity like 90% and create some insane fog conditions. Probably much more so for, road racing, but you can put some pretty foggy conditions on the oval too, and it's pretty entertaining.
And that's something that's wonderful about iRacing, is just the weird mashups and things you can do. Like, I know we used to do it was a night league, and it was called After Dark, and we would run random things set up, and we did trophy trucks at Martinsville. So like, that's just what's so much fun about iRacing as a whole. The customability of having fun, and then you have the realism.
So now And so now that these guys have pitted, and changing the subject just a little bit, shifting gears here, everybody has pitted. We're on lap 62 at 95. We got about a third of the race to go. We're going to step away for another time. Jordan and I'll be back. We're going to call the end of this one as things are going to heat up a little bit. You got a couple different groups now spread out. They're all going to catch each other, I think, with about 10 to go, and it's going to be a wild one. I'm Jonathan, joined by Jordan Brockle. We'll be right back.
Allow extreme scoring to do the work for you.
Ricmotech high-performance sim racing equipment. Whether you're just looking to have fun, train for race day, or become a serious esports competitor, Ricmotech has you covered. Hundreds of name brand parts. Support from experts that love sim racing. Trusted by the pros. There's only one place to go, Ricmotech.com.
The search is over. The most comprehensive oval scoring solution is here. Featuring oval playoffs, adjust drivers per round, custom number of rounds, custom playoff points, provisionals, optional win and you're in, custom playoff displays, rookie championships, optional minimum participation, and load those results in seconds. Visit extremescoring.info today.
back here at Talladega for the XMS Cup Series. Your current leader, Brandon Stower, leading this group of cars, just kind of trying to make it to the end. And we're going to see these guys definitely have to think of some kind of fuel strategy, in my opinion. I think they're going to be short. I don't know if some of these guys are going to push it to that, like, roughly lap 90, or maybe come down once they hit that 30 lap interval, that we've been seeing these guys able to reach. And, I think we're going to see a couple different varying strategies. I mean, we're within that 30 laps now, so about 25 laps to go. It's going to be interesting, John.
And I would certainly like to come down pit road first. I want to be the first few cars to pit. That way, when the other guys pit, I'm up to speed. I think that just works out better. In some cases, I've seen the opposite, but I feel like if you're the first group that pits, you have that head of steam. I've talked about it already in this race, and that head of steam is worth something when you're overtaking or trying to overtake guys coming off pit road.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be your best bet, trying to get as much fuel as you can, as quickly as you can, and just be that guy, that first or second guy off pit road. You're going to have to execute, basically be dead on with your pace speed the entire way down the pit road, carry as much speed as you can just before that line, and, get in your box perfect and fire off.
Just totally lost my train of thought here for a brief moment as the field has found its way back together again. 11 cars are all together with 24 remaining here at Talladega. This is the XMS Cup Series. It's brought to you by Extreme Scoring, Ricmotech. You can check both of those products out. Highly recommend. Been to the Ricmotech shop down in Homestead, the Miami, Florida area. Awesome shop. They were kind enough to let some of the guys do some sim racing on their advanced rigs, and boy, were they cool, I must say. Those rigs were very impressive. It'd be nice to own at some point if I ever got back to regular racing. Don't expect to get back to regular racing at any point, but now Brandon Stower's getting leading. Joe Hutchings, P2, Dalton Fredericks has found his way back to third. Gary Wells, Caleb Lamb. Both Gary Wells and Caleb Lamb have people watching, rooting, and cheering them on as these laps wind down little by little. Race time is just over an hour right now. Only caution of the race was that lap 30 stage break.
Which is, kind of crazy, especially with the hit that, Michael Scott Lewis Ramler took to that front stretch. I'm surprised that didn't even grab at least one more car and throw caution. But, they've been clean. These guys race clean just about every week. Very little, we've had a couple where, they get antsy and you have a couple quick cautions back to back to back. But most of the time, these guys run green flag all the entire time. So I think we're going to have maybe one overtime. And, I think that might be about it. But it's going to be close.
Yeah, some of these races right here, they just really come down to the last two laps. If you survive for 95 laps, comes down to the last two. Sometimes it just makes you wonder, can we just run a 5-lap race and see what happens at these big racetracks? But, we still run the laps simply because somebody can make a mistake on pit road. I'll take them out of contention. Someone could take somebody else out, which removes 2 cars out of contention. Anything can happen, especially to guys on the bubble for playoffs, and those that are well within the playoffs. Having a bad race at Talladega could effectively ruin your chances to win a championship. But then again, it may not ruin said chances. It's just, typical military weapons school answer is it depends. Coming through 3 and 4 now, Stower out front. Little gap between Hutchings and Dalton Fredericks, as well as everyone else in the field. Very well could be some fuel conservation going on at this time.
Yeah, you see some guys really laying off of the car in front of them, really not pushing themselves, you know, probably running about 3/4 throttle, trying to keep it as, you know, as slow as you can, which doesn't sound very, like, it sounds backwards. And but you know, just trying to save as much as they possibly can. Maybe some of these guys who are better off in the playoffs and not really needing anything, try to take a gamble and say, if I run out, I run out, you know, and just take their losses, you know, roll into the playoffs. As we see Cogswell. Cogswell's the only guy that's kind of still hanging out there. He's trying to maybe grab one of his laps back by doing a little side drafting, getting somebody to go with him, but without a caution and, you know, several cautions at this point for him, you know, he's going to need about 2 laps here. So two quick cautions for him, and he can be back on the lead lap and fighting for a win here, but it's going to take those cautions at this point. Oh, as we see some of these guys, about 5, 6, 7, 8 cars coming down pit road now. 7 is the official count. Oh, it looks like Daniel Krim missed his box, and I can't see who that is from here. Looks like possibly Wyatt Franklin grabbing the inside wall. You see them all come down. Probably going to be splash and go for most of these guys. Gas and go. All Fredericks is off. Wells is following in tow. Caleb Lamb right beside him. They're all going to fire off. Looks like they're kind of doing a little bit of a... It looks like Fredericks is trying to be the second car out. Doesn't want to be that lead car. Wants to save as much fuel as he can possibly save. And, you know, be perfectly good. I know it's only 19 laps at the end, but being that second car could also be a good spot to be to pull off a win. Michael Thwaites and I believe Daniel Krim coming back down. Daniel Krim missed the pit entry, so he's probably got an unsafe entry. Gonna have to serve a penalty, and that's gonna be killer for him. I mean, he's right on that bubble, so he's gonna have to hope for a caution, get himself back up front, and you know, back in line. But without a caution, his day's pretty much done there. Brandon Stower and Joe Hutchings and Joshua Vidal making stops as well. Gary Wells and Dalton Fredericks, Caleb Lamb, Taylor Bertram leading the pack for them right now. Going to come by and pass that last group that just came in of Cogswell, Hutchings, Vidal, and Stower. They're going to fly by them. They're going to be nose to tail except for Taylor Bertram. These guys aren't even going to have a chance to tag along.
All right, so got a handful of viewers still, 17 to go, laps ticking down, you know, as you mentioned. I still think something's going to happen as this race goes on. It just hasn't really happened as of yet. And, you know, got a little bit of a wiggle right there. Looks like Dalton Fredericks trying to go around and make short work of the 80.
Hutchins on the apron. Everybody's all over that corner.
All right, as we're getting close to 15 to go, we're going to take our last breakaway, and on the way we get back here, things are going to really start heating up. I want to thank everybody for being here with us. Wednesday, it's June 12th. Next week, we got a special one from Worldwide Technology Raceway. That's going to be a technical track. It's going to be a lot more action. Talladega gets kind of tough when you're on these big racing tracks, Jordan, and I know we're both sort of battling it, as you call the whole race for the last 5 laps. And that's exactly what's going to happen, as we got this group of 4, Wells, Fredericks, Caleb Lamb, Taylor Bertram. They're 5 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. You got 2 drivers kind of stuck on their own. You got 2 more drivers on their own, and I believe you touched on this. And this is just, what Talladega does. So we're going to step away. We'll be back with about 12 to go. Want to thank the sponsors one more time, Extreme Scoring, Ricmotech, and Jordan and I will be back in a few minutes.
Ricmotech high-performance sim racing equipment. Whether you're just looking to have fun, train for race day, or become a serious esports competitor, Ricmotech has you covered. Hundreds of name brand parts. Support from experts that love sim racing. Trusted by the pros. There's only one place to go, Ricmotech.com. Ricmotech high-performance sim racing equipment. There's only one place to go, Ricmotech.com.
The search is over. The most comprehensive oval scoring solution is here. Featuring oval playoffs, adjust drivers per round, custom number of rounds, custom playoff points, provisionals, optional win and you're in. custom playoff displays, rookie championships, optional minimum participation, and load those results in seconds. Visit Extreme.
Back here, just 10 laps to go here at Talladega. Not much going on, but definitely going to see some people thinking about making a couple of moves, definitely trying to find their ways. Just up a few positions, you see Michael Thwaites pushing Douglas Carlson by Brandon Stower right here. And just as I say it, you see some people already shifting around, making moves. And the more that we get down to that, 5 lap mark, 6 lap mark, you're going to see somebody really kind of just throw caution to the wind, and that's when we end up with those last second moves where somebody gets clipped, or somebody spins themselves off of someone else's nose. And you see Michael Thwaites already trying to really push Carlson, kind of leading out to that right rear quarter, and that's a dangerous place to push. That's instantly going to take all the weight off the back of that car, and it's just going to send him around.
Right, and now we hit the point that we mentioned, as that 12 is an awesome front style racing machine on that Chevrolet. But this is why we do the whole race. We simply race to get to this point of 9 to go. And now here we are coming to 8 to go this time around. Really, we got a battle. It's going to be these top 4. Unless something happens with these guys behind them, they have fallen 13 seconds back, because they have been unable to get as coordinated as the rest of the field. We had drivers all pit on around lap 76, so everybody's got enough fuel to make it. If nothing happens between these 4 guys or these 4 guys back here, this race is going to finish under green, and it's just going to be an interesting battle. I'd like to see a 4-wide finish between the top 4, but they very well could, as you're talking about Michael Thwaites back here pushing on Douglas Carlson. You could bring out a caution, put the field back together, and have a quick shootout to end this race. And so, honestly, maybe it's in your favor to spin a guy. I'm not really for spinning a guy, but the field is kind of hoping that somebody will, to give the top 11, the top 12, the guys still in the lead lap, a shot at it. Cogswell isn't going to be able to get his lap back, I don't think, without 3 cautions here. But Marco Evans, if he can get a caution, we can have 13 drivers on the lead lap, and he can get back in the mix. If you're on the lead lap at Talladega, within 7 rows of the lead, on a restart, you can win the race. But you can't win the race from a lap down, and you certainly can't win the race if you're 15 seconds behind the leader and it stays green.
Yeah, and I mean, you want to be within shooting distance, and it could be as far back as 6, 7 cars, but like that second group of Douglas Carlson, unless this top 4 really has some struggles where none of them can get around to that out of that tri-oval, I mean, that's going to be a hard distance to make up before somebody limps it past the line.
All right, so only, about 14, 15 miles remaining here for Talladega for the XMS Cup Series. Still being patient. I think with this small group here, it's really going to come down to the last lap, and you don't want to be leading. And if you're Gary Wells, you're just going to have to block all 3 of these guys. And the head game that you're going to play here is, will one of the other 3 guys go with somebody here, or is everybody going to fan out thin for themselves? That's the thing that's going to make this interesting. It's also worth kind of noting that this second group of guys, Joe Hutching and I don't know who he's got in tow with him right there. That's Cogswell. These guys, they are somewhat catching 8th and 9th, but I mean, again, they're still 6.5 seconds back, and it just kind of spread out there. But now these guys, the 4 guys racing themselves, they're letting themselves get further and further away from the top 4, but they're getting awfully aggressive right here as the leaders are just, hanging out. These guys are all over the place, and they're only racing for 5th.
Yeah, and I mean, every point matters. I mean, these guys want all the points. They want that momentum going into the playoffs for someone like Michael Thwaites. You know, you see him already kind of jumping out. Maybe tried to think of, maybe he could have had a bit of a run there, was testing it. You know, he's got about 4 laps, so he's going to have to really work to get back to that slingshot spot to get around Carlson. But, you know, trying as much as he can to just get somewhere. But, you know, these guys are fighting for momentum. You know, you're going into the playoffs. You want to be riding high off of what you did the week before, so you have that confidence.
Things up front a little bit shakier now as you got a couple lapped cars that have come into play. Wyatt Franklin has been caught. So now you got 6-7 cars up here. This is going to shake this whole thing up quiet. It's going to make it very different for the next 3 laps. Now you've got cars that are laps down. You've got the other group, and now you've got 2 different lanes. So now this is totally different. The next 3 laps are going to be wild. You got 4 cars that are leaders. You've got Wyatt Franklin, Daniel Krim are both a lap down. Ryan Frey is in this group right here. So 3 lapped cars, 4 cars on the lead lap that want to win it. Anything can happen. The second group back here, they're back to single file. They're probably going to fan out for the end of the race too, and we'll try to catch that as it happens. 2 laps remaining. Popsicle sticks in the air is what Tony Trapasso used to say so many times as he called racing for SRM Esports Broadcasting and other organizations. He was so great at, you know, the sim racing broadcast and how he did things. If we could all imitate him, you know, we'd all be doing excellent and beyond good, I might add. So Gary Wells, Dalton Fredericks, Caleb Lamb, a little further back, Taylor Bertram. It almost seems like, you know, does Bertram have some help with these other 2 guys? Are they going to give him a big push coming to the last lap? And is he going to go right by Gary Wells, Fredericks, and Caleb Lamb? He's back about 1.5 seconds now. It's going to be kind of hard to pick up as we're on the white flag, less than 2.7 miles around the racing surface. Gary Wells leads Dalton Fredericks and Caleb Lamb.
Yeah, and it's going to be one of these things. It's like, when do you pull out of line? When do you make your run? Do you go all the way up to the wall? Do you kind of go 1 lane up? Do you try to force him out of line? You know, there's several different ways you can go about it, but if you're, you know, say Caleb Lamb, you're a little bit more limited on your strategies versus someone like Dalton Fredericks, where he could just kind of throw his self out there and really try to drag race down the front. As you see that Fredericks makes his move to the outside, he's going to be side by side.
If I'm Lamb
looking to the inside, we're going to be 3 wide.
Lamb made the move. Look at that. Caleb Lamb to the lead because he went through the middle, and he's going to win the race. I'm talking over you. I'm just surprised.
No, you're fine. You're fine. That's an exciting finish. I love it. I just love Talladega.
You're like, he doesn't have options, but Fredericks went too early. He went too early, put the car side by side, gave Lamb that bigger wake. He took it, and he went right between the 2.
I'm right there with you. You know, Fredericks, it's so difficult to make a choice. You know, he goes, like you said, goes outside a little too early. Lamb dives to the inside of Fredericks and was able to just pull through like they were both standing still.
So there's a pass for, you know, you're going to see Fredericks here. Fredericks is pulled out. You know, we're coming on lap 4 here. Lamb sees the opening. They left it open. He's in the wake, and he's just able to slide right there in front of Gary Wells. Takes this race away with, you know, in a 3rd mile down the front stretch, you know, and that's the race. And Caleb Lamb is victorious. It's worth mentioning Michael Thwaites comes home 6th, Brandon Stower 5th in that second group, and there's Caleb Lamb, you know, for better or worse, burning it down after what I hate to say was a pretty boring race, but that's only, you know, a testament to the field and then to the very end of the race. And this is how, you know, you've got a good league. If you get through an entire Superspeedway race caution free and the fireworks happen on the last lap, and that's what we saw. That All-Stars TV 51 Chevrolet for Caleb Lamb people were rooting for Caleb Lamb and Allison Shelby to be particular. Was very, very happy, very exciting to finish this day off. And Jordan, whenever you're ready, as we got one more car to pit, we can go ahead and bring Caleb Lamb in for his interview. And I'm not seeing him on a channel as of yet. There he is.
Caleb Lamb, it's Jordan and John up in the booth. You got a copy?
How we doing, guys?
I'm doing phenomenal. I mean, you guys put on, again, as usual, one heck of a show, heck of a finish. You know, talk me through just that last corner there. You know, Fredericks goes out, wide, tries to get around Wells, kind of pulls even with them, and then you go up with Fredericks and then just kind of decide to split the two there.
Yeah, I knew that with the side draft, if I laid back just enough, that I was going to get a heck of a run coming off the 4. So I just basically just waited for Dalton to make his move and went where they weren't, pretty much. And it worked out for me.
Yeah, I mean, it more than worked out in my eyes. I mean, just an incredible just awareness there. And, with being at somewhere like Talladega for 90 laps, how do you keep that, kind of concentration? Because, plate racing is not for the weak, in my opinion. It takes a lot of concentration and patience. How do you get through those other 89 3/4 laps to get to that position?
Just kind of minding your P's and Q's and try to minimize the mistakes. It is very difficult. Yeah, luckily there weren't too many issues tonight, I don't think, that I was around anyway. So it was a pretty clean and green race. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, clean and green indeed. Just I believe the caution for the stage break. You guys always race very clean and respectably. And we love watching you guys, and congratulations to you. Before we set you free, is there anybody you want to shout out real quick?
Dude, yeah, All-Star 15 TV, the Drinking Bros, Auto Racing, Detoured by Design, Often Turn One podcast. If you guys get a chance, you should listen to those boys. The rest of the guys at Hutch Sport Racing, you guys for putting on the broadcast. You guys do a heck of a job. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you, guys.
And thank you. We appreciate you for the shout there, and we look forward to watching you next week.
Yep, absolutely. Have a good one.
You too. Trying to just locate our next guy. Bring up Dalton Fredericks.
Yeah, first runner up. I was watching as we were doing that interview on the white flag. Fredericks got his run, and he had to take it. Unfortunately, it stalled out before he got all the way down the front stretch, and Caleb didn't get his run until Fredericks' momentum came into play, and he just had the momentum at the right spot, and Fredericks just came a little early. Yeah,
and it's such a hard thing to time, but I believe you have our guy right here, right now.
Dalton Fredericks, welcome to the booth. I know it's a bit of a heartbreaker. Coming out of turn 4, it seemed like he had the momentum to make the pass, and it just happened to stall. I wouldn't even want to say stall. It's just Caleb Lamb got a better run behind you and Gary Wells. If you had to do it differently, would you have, not taken the run out of turn 4 and hope to get it after the fact down the front stretch, or did you think that was your best opportunity?
Oh, no, I could have done it completely different. The proper way would have been waiting a little longer, but I had already had 2 wins this season or so, but I wanted to get my teammate a win. he's been waiting for a win this whole season. I figured this was his best opportunity. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go here. You get a big run, you'll be able to split us. So, worked according to plan. So I'm happy with that. I'm happy my teammate was able to get the win there. And we worked really great there, especially at the end. Man, we're putting down some blistering laps and we're able to put a gap on the field. So fun race. We were able to come out on top, 1-2 for our team specifically, and couldn't be any happier.
All right, well, Dalton, that's a great way to put it. Coming home P2. It's worth asking. Next week y'all go to Worldwide Technology Raceway or Gateway, as it's commonly referred to. What are your thoughts going into that track, and do you think you're going to have the ability to be a front runner, which is pretty consistent with you this season?
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of my favorite tracks. And I usually tend to be all right there, but we'll see how we come next week. Just got to be prepared and be ready for anything. So hopefully we can see you guys again next week. That'd be awesome.
All right, well, we're looking forward to talking to you, Dalton. Enjoy P2, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you again next week or at some point in the season.
Yeah, I'd like to thank my sponsors, All Star 15 TV, Maconi Setup Shop, Drinking Bros Auto Racing Group, Nerds Who Nerd Things, everyone at the shop. Thank you, Detoured by Designs. Thanks, Caleb, for the awesome pushes there. Also, Gary for the awesome teamwork. Joe, everyone at the shop. Thank you guys for broadcasting. And have a good night, guys.
Awesome. You too.
And last but not least, our final podium guy, Mr. Gary Wells. It's Jordan and John in the booth. You got a copy?
I got you loud and clear. You guys got me okay?
Yes, we do.
All right.
You were kind of in that spot where, everything kind of happens around you and you hope you get through the other side. Unfortunately, doesn't work out in your favor, but, you pull off the third place finish. Should be well enough points to get you into this playoff run. And, how you feeling about that now?
Yeah, according to this, I'm showing that we're in. Alex didn't show up tonight, and so that should really put us in there. But, man, just not enough experience running up front in these league races at the end. I've kind of been in uncharted territory the last couple weeks, running the top 5, running the top 3. So I was just happy as heck tonight to control the race a little bit and lead the most laps. But shout out to my teammates, Caleb, Dalton. They did what they had to do to win the darn thing. Taylor, too. He was right there with us at the end of that last run until that traffic got in the way. But just want to give a shout out to Warrior Enterprises. That's the team that we are running under now. Wells Esports, Scott Ramler, all them guys. They're great. All-Star 15 TV, the Often Turn 1 podcast on the hood of the car. So great points night overall. Just kind of wish we were 2 spots better, but just wanted to give a shout out to my buddy Mike Robinson. His grandpa recently passed away, so this race was dedicated to him, and of course my mother as well for passing away of colon cancer a couple years ago. So check, don't guess, people. Seriously, get checked for colon cancer. It's the worst thing ever. So you guys got any other questions for me?
Yeah, before the next question, I do want to send out condolences. Cancer is not a joke. It doesn't matter which kind it is, and always, as Gary said, I attest to it. Get checked, no matter what it is. Get checked and take it seriously. Again, condolences to those guys, and want to be with them there in their time of need. But you come home third. You didn't really try to push any kind of boundaries. You just try to get through the line. And sorry, I got myself choked up now. See what you did to me,
all
Gary?
good, man. It's all good.
See what you did there to me, Gary. But you find yourself going into the playoffs. You can ride this third place into next week. How are you going to adjust to going from this massive track of Talladega to somewhere like Worldwide Technology?
Well, Gateway, I don't have a whole lot of experience yet in this Cup car, so we're gonna have to get some laps in this week in the test session. But I've been pretty good at these weird tracks. It takes some skill to drive. Was fast at Darlington. Kind of put myself in a bad spot early on in that race to wreck myself, but finished I think second in stage 1 at Phoenix. So I feel like those tracks are pretty similar as far as what you got to do and the kind of technique to run a Gateway kind of be similar as what Phoenix is. So pretty confident going into next week. I think we could run top 5, if not even a win. So I'm not calling my shot saying I'm going to win the race, but if I see myself here at this podium spot similar to tonight, I think we'll be pretty happy with that going into next week.
Yeah, well, we definitely want to wish you luck with the playoffs. And before we send you on your ways, anybody you want to shout out?
Oh, well, already did those. Sorry, kind of did them out of order.
Yeah, you're all good.
I've been in the broadcast booth. I know. We always ask that last too, but no, just shout out to everybody. JP Customs Photography, they're on the car as well. Just everybody again at Warrior Enterprises. We've been recently just took over this team and rebranded, so kind of a big deal for me to be on the podium here as an owner driver, but. Just shout out to everybody, Alan Dobbs, Michael Self, everybody over at Ricmotech for sponsoring the Extreme Motorsports Cup Series, and Ed too for putting on a great league. And looking forward to next week playoffs. See what comes our way there.
Well, we wish you luck, and we'll hopefully be talking to you next week.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Well, John, it wraps up Talladega. We're sitting here, crazy finish. Not really what we expected. You see Gary Wells leading, Dalton Fredericks following in tow, dives to the outside, and Caleb decides to split them and pull off the win there. So I look to possibly seeing some more crazy stuff next week at Gateway.
It was really, it couldn't have been scripted any better, and Dalton said that he could have gone a little bit later. I'm not driving the car. I don't know how the runs were happening in this race, but I felt like he got his one run, and I don't think he would have gotten that run if he stalled it out trying to come down the front stretch a second time. And so he took it when he had it. And that same moment, Caleb Lamb, his momentum was building. He got the run, and then Gary Wells went low. Fredericks didn't go with him, and they opened up the middle. And of course, Lamb just split them and went right through. Time to talk about fourth place, which is Taylor Bertram. We didn't talk about him at all. Respectful.
No, not
fourth place finish.
No, not at all. And he ran a wonderful race.
Very respectable fourth place. Brandon Stower is fifth in that second group. Michael Thwaites, Douglas Carlson, Joshua Vidal, of course. Joe Hutchings managed to stay on the lead lap, and Jordan, you can take the guys that are less than happy.
Daniel Krim is first man, one lap down. Still a good top 10. Wyatt Franklin, followed by Ryan Fry. Marco Evans, 2 laps down in 13th, followed by Jonathan Cogswell, also 2 laps down. Scott Ramler, unfortunately, had that hard hit there down the front stretch, finds himself in 15th, 55 laps down. And Jacob Brower, we still don't really know what happened to him, whether it was connection issue or had something outside of the sim, but finds himself 16th, rounding out the field at 91 laps down.
Yeah, and of course, so we don't know really what happened with him. And Logan Kogar on the bottom, we believe, was part of race control or start and park driver. So we want to thank you guys for being here with us. June 12th, it's Wednesday. It's now 10:46 on the East Coast. It was a good race, boring race, but it was a testament to the league and right up till the very end. I want to thank the Ricmotech Cup Series and Ed Morris for allowing us to be here week in and week out. I noticed he wasn't here for this race, but I'm sure we will see him next week at Gateway. And to close this one out, Tony Trapasso always said, ladies and gentlemen, as you walk through life, please do not play in traffic. And I'm going to add my spin. Life is not Frogger. And we'll see you next time.